Hello and welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, your guide to understanding life's deeper questions with insights drawn from Buddhist teachings. I'm excited to delve into a fascinating topic today: what is consciousness? And where does it come from? We'll be exploring this from a Buddhist perspective, aiming to provide clarity and wisdom for your journey. Before we begin, if you're new to our channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. We aim to bring you valuable content to help you navigate life with more clarity, peace, and perhaps, a bit more wealth in its truest sense. Chapter 1, Consciousness, a river, not a rock. We often carry around this quiet, persistent feeling that there's someone inside, a me, that sees, hears, thinks, remembers, and feels. This me feels solid, continuous, and unchanging, like a rock. We assume it's always been there and will always be there. But have you ever stopped to truly examine this me? Have you ever looked closely at that me and asked, where exactly is it located? When you say, I am sad, where precisely is that I? Does it remain the same from yesterday to today, or is it something that changes? This is the core question the Buddha invites us to investigate, not by looking outside ourselves, not in the sky, not in books, but by turning inward and examining our own moment-to-moment experience. The Buddha taught that what we commonly call consciousness is not a fixed entity or a hidden soul residing within us. It's not like a rock that you can point to and declare, "This is who I am, unchanging and eternal." Instead, it's far more akin to a river, constantly flowing, changing, and never the same from one moment to the next. In the ancient language of Pali, the word for consciousness is vijnana. It simply translates to knowing or awareness, not a thinker behind the thought, but the very activity of being aware. The Buddha described 6 distinct kinds of awareness, each one arising when a sense organ meets its corresponding object. When the eye encounters a color or a form, eye consciousness arises. When the ear registers a sound, ear consciousness springs into being. It's the same with smells, tastes, physical sensations, and mental objects like thoughts or memories. Each one triggers a moment of knowing. These aren't separate beings living inside us, pulling strings and dictating our experiences. Rather, they are events, fleeting moments of awareness. Conditions meet, awareness arises, and then the moment passes, giving way to another. This isn't just an abstract theory, you can observe it in action at any time. Before we move on to Chapter 2, please like this video. Close your eyes for a moment and simply notice what happens. A sound enters your ear. A knowing of the sound appears in your awareness. Then, just as quickly, it disappears. A new thought arises in your mind. Then it's gone too. The mind never stays still, never rests on a single point. This is what the Buddha called anicca, or impermanence, the fundamental truth that all conditioned things, including consciousness, arise, change, and pass away. They don't last, they are inherently unstable. Like waves on the surface of water, they form, move, and dissolve back into the vastness of the ocean. Because of this constant change and flux, Buddhism teaches that there is no solid self hiding behind these processes, no permanent me who owns these experiences and controls their unfolding. This profound insight is the meaning of anatta, non-self. The Buddha reminded us that what we usually refer to as I is simply a collection of ever-shifting experiences, a dynamic flow of sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Consciousness is not a person, it is not a container holding memories or emotions. It is a happening, a process that is entirely dependent on causes and conditions. Imagine for a moment that you feel anger rising within you. You might reflexively say, I am angry. But what is actually there? There's a bodily tension, maybe a sensation of heat in the chest. There are racing thoughts, a story forming in your mind. But all of this changes, sometimes rapidly. Sometimes the anger dissipates when the situation shifts. Sometimes it vanishes when you pause and take a deep breath. The knowing of anger, that's consciousness. The anger itself is something else, a mental state, what Buddhism calls sankhara, or mental formation. These two are often confused, but they are distinct. Consciousness is not what you feel, it's the knowing that a feeling is present. We are halfway done. Please subscribe to this channel. So, when we look closely and honestly at our experience, what initially seems like a permanent and unchanging self dissolves into a series of short-lived events, moments of awareness that arise and pass away in quick succession. The Buddha didn't share this teaching to confuse or disorient us. He shared it because seeing this clearly is the beginning of true freedom. When we stop clinging to the illusion of a fixed me, we begin to understand life more honestly and realistically. We see that things change, moods rise and fall, and experiences come and go. And in that seeing, in that direct recognition of impermanence and non-self, there is profound peace. This peace isn't something magical or otherworldly. It arises naturally from understanding how things really are, from recognizing that what we call the mind is not one solid thing but a stream of knowing shaped by conditions. Like a river that never stops flowing, it is constantly in motion. And just like a river, it cannot be owned, possessed, or controlled. You cannot pick up a handful of water and say, "This is my true self." It will slip through your fingers every time. Yet this river of consciousness is not random. It's shaped by various factors. How it flows is something we'll begin to look at more closely. Please give this video a like if you are enjoying it. Chapter 2, Karma, Seeds Shaping Our Experience. Why do different people react so differently to similar situations? Why do we possess natural talents or deep-seated fears that seem to come from nowhere? Buddhism points to karma, the seeds we plant through our actions. But where are these seeds stored between lives? There's a moment that many of us know well. You're walking in a peaceful place, feeling relaxed and content. Nothing particularly significant has happened. Yet suddenly, a wave of sadness rises in your chest. No specific story or reason accompanies it, it's just a cloud passing through the sky of your mind. Why does this happen? According to the Buddha's teaching, these moments are not random or arbitrary. They're not signs of a hidden self either. They are the ripening of old seeds, planted long ago through our thoughts, speech, and actions. The Buddha called these seeds kamma, what we now often pronounce as karma. Karma, simply put, is intentional action. Not every action is karma. Only those driven by intention, whether wholesome or unwholesome, leave a trace. These actions leave a trace, not in the body, not in the brain, but in the flow of consciousness itself. Like dropping ink into water, they leave a subtle color, a faint stain that gradually alters the nature of the stream. Over time, these traces shape how we feel, think, act, and even how we're born into new lives. This might sound mysterious or esoteric, but it's not very far removed from our everyday experience. Imagine someone who always reacts with kindness, even under pressure. That reflex wasn't born in a single moment. It was cultivated and nurtured by hundreds of choices, sometimes big, often small, to respond with compassion and understanding. And the same holds true for our habits of fear, jealousy, patience, or generosity. The mind remembers, it doesn't forget. In early Buddhist teachings, this memory is not necessarily a conscious one. We don't have to consciously remember what we did in a past life. Still, our actions keep echoing through our mind stream. They influence our tendencies, our reactions, even the basic structure of our personality. In modern terms, some may speak of conditioning or psychological imprints. But the Buddha spoke clearly about the power of intention and how it shapes not only this life but what comes after. Now, a deep and important question naturally arises: if these karmic seeds are so powerful, where are they kept? After all, the body dies. The brain ceases to function. Yet consciousness continues, carrying these seeds with it. In the Mahayana tradition, especially in the Yogacara school, there is a teaching known as Alaya Vijnana. The word Alaya means storehouse or home, and Vijnana means consciousness. So this is the storehouse consciousness. You can think of it like a quiet ocean beneath the surface waves. Above, our thoughts, feelings, and sense impressions rise and fall. But deep below, this subtle stream holds the seeds of all past actions, not in the way a hard drive stores files, but more like how a field holds the memory of every seed dropped into its soil. When conditions are right, something will grow. Alayavijnana is not something we can detect with ordinary awareness. It works quietly, beneath the level of our conscious minds. Every time we act, speak, or think with intention, a seed is planted in this storehouse. Some seeds stay buried for a long time, lying dormant until the right conditions arise. Others ripen quickly, sprouting into immediate experiences. And when they do, we experience the result, maybe as a mood, a habit, or a situation we find ourselves in. It's important to remember, even this deep storehouse is not a self. It's not a soul. It doesn't remain unchanged. It's still part of the conditioned flow. It changes as seeds are planted, watered, and burned away through insight. It's not a thing that travels from life to life. It's more like a current that keeps flowing, carrying traces of the past into each new moment. This is what allows the continuation of consciousness even after death. The Buddha taught that the stream of mind, carried by karma, does not end with the death of the body. Instead, it continues, propelled by the force of past actions. And as one life ends, another begins. In early Buddhist texts, this moment of new life is marked by patisandhivanana, the rebirth consciousness. It's the first spark of awareness in a new body, conditioned by karmic seeds ripening from past lives. That first moment already carries potentials, tendencies, and inclinations. Just as a tree begins from a seed shaped by its parents, a new life begins with tendencies shaped by past actions. But none of this is predetermined or fixed. Karma is not fate, it's not punishment or reward. It's simply cause and effect, the natural law of the universe operating through our intentions. Old seeds may ripen, but we're planting new ones all the time. This is why mindfulness and ethical living are so central in the Buddha's path. By acting with care and awareness, we shape the future and consciously choose the seeds we plant. By understanding the flow of our mind, we weaken the seeds of suffering and strengthen the seeds of wisdom and peace. So next time an emotion arises, you don't need to chase it or fight it. Just notice it, acknowledge its presence, and breathe. It may be an old seed opening, revealing a pattern from the past. And every moment you stay aware, every moment you choose a wholesome response, you are planting something new, something that will shape your future experience. The Buddha reminded us that freedom doesn't come from trying to erase the past or escape our karma. It comes from understanding it and realizing that even the deepest patterns, stored in the quietest corners of consciousness, can be transformed with awareness and intention. Because even the storehouse is not a prison. It is always changing, always in flux. And change means possibility, the potential for growth, healing, and liberation. We have a couple more chapters. Before we move on to Chapter 3, consider subscribing. Chapter 3, Consciousness. Buddhist and worldviews. Consciousness is one of the oldest and most difficult questions humanity has ever asked. Scientists study it in laboratories, dissecting the brain and analyzing neural activity. Philosophers debate it in classrooms, wrestling with paradoxes and thought experiments. Religions around the world offer their own answers, invoking souls, spirits, and divine essences. But despite all the thinking, the analyzing, and the theorizing, the mystery stays. Who is it that sees, hears, thinks, and feels? Where does this knowing come from? How does the physical world give rise to subjective experience? The Buddha didn't try to solve the mystery with abstract theories. He observed directly, turning inward and examining his own experience with unwavering attention. What he saw was that consciousness is not a fixed thing, not an object inside us, not a soul residing in the brain. It's more like a flickering light, always changing, always depending on something else to arise. In Buddhism, this light is not one single, unified thing but many, 6 types of awareness that depend on the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. This teaching may sound simple, even obvious, but when you look deeper, it's very different from how most people understand the mind, especially in the modern world. Let's start with the scientific view. Many modern scientists look at consciousness as something the brain produces, a product of physical processes. In this view, your awareness is a result of neurons firing in your head, electrical signals traveling through complex networks. It's a side effect of biology, a fortunate accident of evolution. If the brain gets damaged, consciousness changes. If the brain stops, consciousness stops. This view has its strengths. It's based on careful observation of physical processes, using sophisticated tools and techniques to map brain activity. But it also runs into a problem: it cannot fully explain subjective experience. You can measure brain activity, track neural pathways, and even decode someone's thoughts to some extent. But how do you explain the feeling of being you, the unique and private experience of awareness? How do you explain the simple act of seeing a sunset, the joy of hearing a favorite song, or the grief of missing someone? Scientists call this the hard problem of consciousness. Where does the inner experience come from? Why do neurons make feelings? How does the physical give rise to the subjective? Now compare this with the Buddhist view. The Buddha didn't separate the mind from the body, but he didn't reduce it to the brain either. He taught that consciousness arises dependent on conditions, a complex interplay of various factors. For example, seeing only happens when there is an eye, a visible form, and light. If one of those conditions is missing, seeing cannot occur. It's the same with hearing, tasting, touching, thinking. They are all events, not things you own, but activities that happen under the right conditions. And they don't last. The Buddha pointed out that each moment of knowing arises, fades, and is followed by another, a continuous stream of awareness. What you call your mind is more like a flame dancing in the wind, beautiful, ephemeral, always in motion, impossible to hold. Western philosophers have long wondered about this too. Some, like Descartes, believe there is a soul, a thinker behind the thoughts, a central command center directing our experience. Others, like David Hume, looked into the mind and couldn't find any fixed self at all, just a stream of thoughts, feelings, and impressions, constantly changing and fleeting. Strangely enough, this second view comes closer to the Buddhist insight. According to the Buddha's teaching, there is no permanent thinker behind the thoughts, no eternal watcher behind the eyes, just processes unfolding according to conditions. This is what anatta means, not that we don't exist at all, but that the self we imagine is not something fixed or solid. It's built from changing parts, a collection of experiences that arise and pass away. The sense of I is a pattern, not a person. Now, let's look at another path, the religious view from Hinduism. In Hindu philosophy, there's a concept called Atman, a pure, unchanging self that continues life after life, and is ultimately one with the universal spirit, Brahman. This self is seen as eternal, unchanging, and divine, the true essence of our being. The Buddha saw this teaching in his time, but he took a different direction, guided by his own direct experience. He noticed that whatever you observe, thoughts, feelings, even the deepest layers of awareness, they all change. If something changes, it cannot be truly permanent. If it arises from causes, it cannot be the ultimate reality. This includes even the alaya vijnana, the storehouse consciousness we spoke about before. In some Buddhist traditions, this is described as a deep, quiet stream where karmic seeds are held, carrying the momentum from life to life. But even this is not eternal. It is conditioned, shaped by causes. And so, it is also not a permanent self. Here lies one of the key differences between Buddhism and many other systems. The Buddha didn't focus on explaining what consciousness is in some final, cosmic sense. He focused on how it works, and how that understanding can lead to peace. He taught that all levels of consciousness, from the surface thoughts to the deep karmic layers, arise through conditions. They are empty of a fixed self. And they are impermanent. This view is not just an intellectual idea, it's a mirror. When you look into it, you start to see your suffering more clearly. And you start to understand how to let go of the things that cause that suffering. When people ask, but then who is living this life? Who is being reborn? The Buddha gently pointed back to the stream, to the flow of consciousness shaped by karma. He showed that this stream flows not because of a soul, but because of craving and ignorance, the forces that keep us clinging to the illusion of self. And if those causes are removed, the stream stops, not in a tragic way, but like a flame going out when there's no more fuel. Peaceful. Complete. So, what makes the Buddhist view of consciousness unique? It's not the vocabulary, the layers of mind, or the terms like Vijnana or Aleya. What makes it unique is the goal. The Buddha didn't try to solve consciousness to win a debate or satisfy intellectual curiosity. He explored it to understand suffering and to offer a way out, to show that what we call me is not what we think it is, to reveal the illusion of self. He taught that when we see clearly how consciousness depends on conditions, and how those conditions include karma, craving, and ignorance, then we begin to understand what freedom really means. Not as something outside us, a goal to be achieved, but as something that becomes possible the moment we stop clinging to what is not truly ours. And so, the question is not, what is consciousness, as an abstract puzzle to be solved. The deeper question is, how are we using this moment of knowing? Are we feeding habits that keep the mind circling in old patterns? Or are we starting to wake up and see things as they really are? The Buddha reminded us that the answer is not in theories but in direct experience, in how we meet this very breath, this very thought, this moment, just as it is. This is the final chapter of this video. Chapter 4, What has consciousness? Beings, plants, cosmos? When we hear the word consciousness, we naturally think of humans, of thoughts, emotions, choices, and memories. But then we look around. A dog stares into our eyes, wagging its tail. A tree sways in the wind, rustling its leaves. The stars shine in silence, vast and distant. And we begin to wonder, what really has consciousness? Is it only us? What about animals? What about the whole universe? Could it somehow be aware? According to the Buddha's teaching, consciousness, Vijnana, is not a mystery floating in space, a magical essence permeating all things. It's not a spark of awareness inside every rock and tree. It's not everywhere, and it's not nowhere. It appears when the right conditions come together. That's all. For example, when the eye meets a visible form, and there's light and attention, then eye consciousness arises. When there's no eye, or no sight, or no contact between them, then that kind of consciousness doesn't arise. The same applies to sound, smell, taste, touch, and mental objects. 6 types, 6 doors to experience. The Buddha taught that these 6 kinds of consciousness are how living beings experience the world. Without these doors, there's no knowing. So the first question we often ask is, do animals have consciousness? Yes. According to Buddhism, animals are sentient beings, beings that feel, that know, and that suffer. A dog may not write poetry, but it feels pain, joy, fear, and connection. Its mind stream flows with the same basic elements as ours: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These 5 aggregates move and shift just like in a human. That's why compassion in Buddhism extends to all beings, not just humans. Because suffering and the wish to be free from it are universal. But what about plants? Do they have consciousness? This is where Buddhist teachings draw a clear line. Plants grow, respond to sunlight, react to damage, but they do not possess the 6 sense faculties required for Vijnana to arise. They don't see forms, hear sounds, or think thoughts in the way sentient beings do. They are alive, yes. But not conscious, at least, not in the way the Buddha defined it. There is no eye consciousness, ear consciousness, or mind consciousness arising in a blade of grass. Even if science shows that plants react to stimuli, bending toward light, releasing chemicals when cut, this is not the same as awareness. According to the Buddha's teaching, consciousness arises only when conditions support it. And for a being to be reborn with consciousness, it must have karmic potential and a mental stream shaped by intentional acts. Plants do not accumulate karma in the same way sentient beings do. Now comes the big question: is the universe itself conscious? Many people feel a kind of awe when they look at the stars or sit in nature. Some feel the presence of something greater, a cosmic intelligence, a universal mind. Some modern thinkers suggest that maybe the universe is conscious, or that consciousness is built into the fabric of reality itself. But from a Buddhist perspective, the universe is not a person. It does not know in the way living beings know. It does not have intentions. It does not make decisions. The Buddha taught that awareness arises in dependently originated ways, through causes and conditions. And those causes include sense faculties, mental formations, and karma. None of these are present in a rock, a planet, or a galaxy. This doesn't mean the universe is dead or meaningless. It just means that awareness, as we know it, is something very specific. It happens within beings, not in the universe as a whole. The moon doesn't gaze back. The wind doesn't understand. The cosmos moves with laws, not with thoughts. Sometimes people argue, but maybe if something is very complex, it becomes conscious. This is a tempting idea, that consciousness grows out of complexity, like a flower blooming from a tree. But in Buddhist thought, complexity alone doesn't create knowing. A robot can have thousands of sensors, yet no awareness. A computer can learn patterns, yet it doesn't suffer. There's no craving, no clinging, no fear of death. The Buddha reminded us that what we call mind, or consciousness, is not just the result of many parts, not just a complex system. It's a flow born of karma, attention, and contact with the world through living faculties. Without those, there is no someone there, no awareness. So what does all this mean for us? It means consciousness is rare. It's precious. It's not floating in everything. It arises only when the right causes are there. And it ends when those causes fall away. This understanding helps us live with more care. It reminds us to treat sentient beings with respect, because they feel pain and joy just like we do. It also helps us see clearly where not to project. Not every moving thing is conscious, not every system is aware, and not every form of life needs our pity or fear. Most of all, it shows us the nature of our own mind, that what we experience right now, seeing, hearing, thinking, feeling, is not permanent. It's not a soul. It's not a fixed me. It's a series of arising and passing moments, flowing according to conditions. And when we see that, really see that, we begin to understand not just what has consciousness, but what it means to wake up from the illusion of being something solid in the stream. Chapter 5, Mindfulness, Watching Reality, Waking Up. If consciousness is a stream shaped by karmic seeds, how do we find freedom? The Buddha taught that suffering begins with ignorance, not seeing things clearly. We don't see that thoughts, emotions, and even the sense of me arise from causes. Because of this, we cling to them, identifying with them as if they were truly ours. And this clinging keeps the stream of karma flowing, perpetuating the cycle of suffering. But the Buddha also taught that awareness can heal. Mindfulness means watching what happens in the body, in the mind, in our moment-to-moment experience, clearly, calmly, and without grasping. It's not about controlling the mind, suppressing thoughts, or forcing emotions to disappear. It's about seeing it as it is, with all its imperfections and contradictions. When we practice in this way, insight arises. We begin to see the three marks of existence: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the absence of a fixed self. The stream of consciousness becomes less personal, less tight. The seeds of karma lose their power when they're seen with wisdom, when we recognize their impermanent and conditioned nature. According to the Buddha's teaching, this is how the mind is purified, not by force, but by clarity. Wisdom doesn't suppress anything. It simply shines a light, revealing the truth of what is. In that light, the stream settles, the craving stops, and what remains is peace, not as an emotion, but as the end of struggle, the cessation of clinging. This is nibbana, not something far away, not a reward to be earned, but the very nature of mind when it is no longer driven by ignorance and craving. So, by watching the mind, we wake up from the illusion of self. We realize that we are not the stream, but the awareness that watches the stream. We are not the thoughts, but the space in which thoughts arise and pass away. We are not the emotions, but the peace that underlies them. And in that recognition, there is profound liberation. Thank you for watching Wisdom and Wealth. We hope this exploration of consciousness from a Buddhist perspective has been insightful and helpful. Remember to like and subscribe for more content to help you navigate life with wisdom and peace.